It's on. All right. I just want to go over an assignment or two, and then we're going to look at some pre-learning examples. You folks are actually going to rate them, give your opinion, and then we're going to look at some read-alouds, which are great strategies to use in the classroom. And then we're going to look at some behavioral issues, what you guys think about them. I'm going to try and incorporate that a little bit each week. Okay, this is for week 2. I went over all of this, but I do want to go over, this is from the discussion thread. You're better off going in the discussion board. It's behavioral strategies in the classroom. Okay. And this is focusing on the atmosphere that is set up by your cooperating teacher. And you're going to read the chapter, which is here, and it's also in the book. It's in week 2. You're going to rate your cooperating teacher using the scale and talk about where you fall in terms of this scenario. Let me see if I have that pulled up. Give me 1 second. Okay, I've got to pull that up. That was one of the things that closed on me. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to open that up and share it with you. Let me make this a little bigger. This goes along with the chapter in the book, the Doug Fisher book, Carrots, focusing on restorative justice. But you're going to talk about the routines. Well, let me make sure that's the one we're talking about. Oh, no, that's not the one I wanted. Sorry. I hate it when my computer decides to change on me. Here's the one. This is the chapter in the book, and here is the scale, and you're going to talk about your cooperating teacher in terms of this and give evidence. Okay? Just wanted to make that clear to you. Okay. And then classroom routines down here, you're just going to talk about the classroom routines. Hold on, I got to do a new share on this. Hang on. This focuses on the scale for establishing classroom routines based on what we did in the webinar last week. And you're going to use let me pull it up. This to rate what your cooperating teacher does in establishing classroom routines. So it's a follow-up on what we talked about last week. Okay, but I went over the other stuff that's for this week. Okay. You know you're going to do the multiple intelligence survey and student interest survey. If you don't get that done this week, don't worry about it. If you want to interview each student, and if you need to interview your cooperating teacher on that, do so. And you want to start your task 1. Okay, these are not due this week, but I put them in here so you could get going on them. But any questions on that? So your 2 things that are due this week are these 2. For those of you who are in Professor On's class, I just added this in there. I will give this to her if she wants to do it. I don't know if she will add that in the course. Okay?
I have
Any
a
questions
question.
on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you want us to attach the rubrics or do you just want us to write up our findings based on the rubrics or
Yeah,
both?
you know what? Put the rubric in and then talk about it.
Okay.
Good question. Now let me make sure I opened up again. My computer closed on me. No, I don't have that. Hang on, I got to open one more thing up. Great time for it to update on me.
It always happens at the worst time.
Yeah, not everybody got this. Hang on, somebody's chatting. No, you have to do every student, Nakama, because that's going to be a basis for your Ed TPA. That'll really help you and designing your lessons. So you need a little time to do that. Now, those of you in Professor On's class, I don't know if she sent this to you, but I'll leave this up there. Once we look at it, we're going to look at some pre-learning activities by teachers that I pulled up specific ones on YouTube, and we're going to rate it. 4 being the highest. We're focusing on building background information, connecting to prior learning, engaging, and interactive. So let's look at the first video. And you guys are going to get to discuss this after you rate it. So you can make your own if you want, if you don't have this. Okay, hang on. Okay.
Sorry, can I ask something while you're doing that? For the multiple intelligence survey, that we have how long to do?
I'd say by the end of next week, you should be able to have all of it completed, and it would be due the following week.
Okay, so we don't have to turn it in for this week.
You don't have to turn it in this week.
Okay, thank you.
It's better, the sooner you can do it, the better off it is for you. Okay, so we're going to rate this first pre-learning activity. I'm not going to show you the whole video, and you guys can talk about it. We're talking about it in terms of engaging, building background knowledge, being interactive, and connecting to prior learning.
All right, we have a lesson today. I don't know if you've seen this before. This is CCSF 2.RL 2.1. Anybody know what that is? No? That's why I'm your teacher, because my job is to teach you what this is. CCSF, Common Core State Standards. Does that sound familiar? No, yeah, maybe. Okay. The new state standards tell our teachers what we should teach and what you should learn and what you should be able to do in grades kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way to 12th grade. So this black writing and green writing is a standard. Now, what do you think the 2 stands for? What is it? Second grade, yeah. So Common Core State Standards for second grade. RL is reading literature. So what are we going to do? We're going to read. Yeah, we're going to read. All right, repeat after me, please. Ask and answer questions. Ask and answer questions. Such as who? What? Where? When? Why? And how? To demonstrate understanding of key details in a text. That is what we're doing today.
Okay, let me do a new share. Okay, fill out that one yourself and then we'll talk about it. 4 being the highest, building background information, connecting to prior learning, engaging, and interactive. And Lois, no helping them.
I'm not.
Now remember, when we discuss this and whatever you put down, this is a get out of jail free card. So there's no wrong answers. This is a way to think about it and explore it and think about where you want to be and you think about where that is and build on it. So I'm going to unmute everybody. Somebody want to give us share? I can't unmute. Some of you are still muted, so unmute yourselves, guys, and tell me what you think. Well, there's one answer.
I'll be honest, I didn't think it was so engaging. I don't know.
So engagement, you gave it a what?
I think, one second. I gave it like a 2. For me personally, like, I lost you one second. I didn't.
I agree.
Engaged.
Okay, so we have a bit of consensus that the engagement was low.
I mean, also, it is an older grade. I normally work a bit younger, so maybe that's why I feel that way.
Well, don't have to apologize. This is your opinion. We're building a skill here. Okay, what about building background information? Deborah, we can't hear you at all. We have, your microphone's not working. You could write it in the chat box if you want. Anybody else have a thought on building background information?
I don't think it gives much background information.
Okay, what would you rate it?
Probably like a 2.
2, okay. Connects to prior learning.
Didn't seem like it did.
Okay. Like I said, Deborah, you can write in the chat box if you got something to contribute. So that you're giving it a low rating on that. What about being interactive? Okay, wait, we have somebody wrote something. Okay. Okay, Deborah says she doesn't think it was a great pre-learning activity. He didn't even check for understanding or get the students involved. Okay, for your edification, I picked the worst possible one first. Okay, we don't even know what the lesson is about other than they're going to be doing some reading. Okay, what does the Common Core, the students learning what the Common Core standard have to do in relationship to engaging them or connecting to the prior learning? Okay?
Nothing.
Yeah, this is probably the worst example I could possibly find, and I looked high and far and wide to find that one. Let's look at another one. All right. This is a 5th grade example. Okay, let me get to the beginning.
Okay, how? The sun, what? Okay, so the water is absorbing that heat from the sun, which causes the water to evaporate. Now, if we're talking about the ocean with evaporation, what happens to the water and the salt crystals in the evaporation process? What? So in condensation, these water molecules, right, well, when it's evaporating into a gas. So now that it's a gas, it's rising up into the atmosphere. When it's rising up, what's happening to that temperature when it's rising up, Logan? It's getting colder. It's getting colder. So once that warm vapor touches that cold atmosphere, it turns back into a liquid. Okay, so once it's back into a liquid, it starts clumping together when it's starting to form some clouds. Okay, that's condensation. Now what happens when these clouds are so heavy, they're all clumped together with all their friends in that cloud? What happens? It starts to rain. And what word is that? What word is that? Precipitation. Precipitation. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Okay, so this is our main question. How do the sun and the ocean interact with the water cycle? Let's talk about that in your group 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay, let me go back to our rubric. Take a minute. Get your thoughts together. What do you think?
I definitely saw that it built on like the prior knowledge.
So connecting to prior learning, you would have given it a,
Probably a 4. Say the teacher did like a clear review and then he did a question that lesson was going to focus on.
I would agree with you. And building background information, what do you think?
Well, it's very similar to the prior knowledge.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. What about engagement, guys? Somebody else want to take a risk on that one?
I thought it was pretty engaging.
It looked very engaged.
Give it a what?
I would give it a 3.
3? Okay, I could live with that. Hang on, let's 4 for engagement from Heather. Okay, I would give it more of a 3, maybe a 2.5, something like that. I want to show you something that's further in that lesson that I thought, hang on. And Deborah says it was much better. Students were not totally engaged, could use some improvement. There was something else in that actually in there that I thought would have worked better. Let's see if I've got it. Okay. I think it's in there now.
The Kokoros Educational Series is proud to present the water cycle.
And I picked this specifically because this is the same topic, but if you use this as an interactive pre-learning activity, look how much more engaging it'll be.
For those of you who've heard of the water cycle, you may be familiar with this image. But wait, it involves much, much more. As the name suggests, the main hero in the water cycle is water. Why, it has more powers than I do. Within a relatively small temperature range, water can change from liquid to either a solid, as ice, or a gas, as vapor, and then back again. But water, while crucial, is led by another driving force, without which all of its powers of transformation would stop in its tracks. The engine.
And if you take something like this and make it interactive and say, students, what do you predict is that driving force? You're still connecting to prior knowledge. You're still, and the engagement level is much higher. There's another one that's put out by Southwest, I forget what it's called, where you can actually manipulate the water evaporating and the cloud, the condensation and the whole bit. And that's even better than this one. So that was another example. Okay, let's go to, I'm going to move this one over here, a 4th grade example. Social studies.
Now, I want you to feel a little bit like those people felt so that you can understand why they did all they had to do to come here.
Topic
So
is
we cut out the
immigration.
4 strings that are 3 feet in length. Now, arrange them in a square on the
This is dealing with the trip over by boat from Europe.
floor. This will show you that it is approximately the space a person would have if there were 600 passengers. So as your group, use each one to make a square on the floor next to your desk. Tuck in your desk. No, just tuck it in and put it on the floor next. I said no. Just tuck in your chair and put it on the floor. Now, did you need to sit? No. Make the square. 1 square out of the 4 pieces. 1 square. No. This is one side. Each string is one side. Make it straight. How'd you do? Done? Don't cut. Just leave it. Just leave it. Just leave it. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Now stand around it. All right, listen up. Everyone should have a square on the floor by now. All right, one at a time. I want one person to stand in the box. One person in the box. One.
Okay, let's look at the rating. Okay, take a second. What do you think about that one?
Well, it's for sure a 4 on engaging and interactive.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be highly engaging and interactive.
I would assume
About
that
background information and prior learning.
I would assume it was building on prior knowledge because something they learned before, since they all were familiar with what they were doing. You know, what the teacher said, like a boat. And
Who's that talking? Dina?
yeah,
Dina, talk a little louder because your connection's not strong.
when the teacher was talking about how the passengers felt on the boat, it seems like the students understood what she was talking about. So that seems like it was building on prior learning.
I would say I would tend to agree that she was building on prior learning, but I don't think she made it as pronounced as she could have in terms of talking about, okay, people are getting on the boat. Why were they so many people on the boat? Why was there limited space? Focusing on that and
Right.
building on the prior learning, maybe why were they leaving? My problem with this lesson, this activity though, was in the actual way that she structured it. What was the problem with the structuring of the activity?
I thought it was like a bit unorganized, like there was a lot going on in the classroom.
Yeah, it wasn't organized in the sense that when you find yourself like she did, like, no, it's saying something like that, then you did not set up the expectation and the routine, the classroom routine of what was going to happen there. She should have modeled that so that there was less confusion. If you were dealing with this in a difficult classroom and you said, okay, one person goes stand in there, and you get 2 belligerent boys or girls that want to go in there first, you now have a confrontation. So you've got to set it up so that they know exactly the routine and you avoid that. You want to model exactly how they're setting it up. So this also involves focusing on classroom routines. So that's an important factor to take into account here. And she could have definitely made a stronger connection. It wasn't a bad connection, but it could have been a stronger connection. Okay, now let's look at one. This is one from, you folks may someday get some Marzano training. I was very involved in that for a while. And this is an example of a pre-learning activity that is in the training.
Comparing and contrasting two texts on the same topic. We've also been talking about key details and main idea. I want you to write on your board, what is a key detail? In your own words, what is a key detail? Don't wipe it off. All right, now, see, everybody's pretty much done. I would like for you to turn at your table and table talk. Do you agree with the people at your table, or do you disagree, and why? I think that a key detail works for me. I agree with that.
Okay, let's go back to the rubric. What do you guys think?
I thought it was pretty engaging.
Okay, the students were engaged. What would you rate it though?
3 maybe.
I would
They
say,
don't really give a response.
say that again?
Like you don't really see how they reacted to it.
Right.
Well, she went to a collaborative there, which was, that's going to make it interactive
Right.
and definitely going to be engaging. But I would agree with you in the 3.
Yeah, and I thought I liked how she asked them to write down what they already knew. So she was building on background knowledge.
Yep,
Right, and she very clearly stated how like it connects to what they learned in the past.
right. So it was very strong on background knowledge and prior learning. And it was very interactive in the sense that it was a collaborative component there. But I agree the engaging was 3. Can anybody think of something that they could have done that would have made this type of activity a 4, focusing on what a key detail is or supporting details as she later gets to?
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
What activity can you brainstorm and think about that she might have done that would have made this engagement more of a 4? I mean, it was good. It was a 3, no doubt about it.
Maybe she could have like said a small story or something beforehand and then asked that question.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Or even a short, as some people who've had me prior would know, like show like a 2-minute or 3-minute cartoon and use that as a basis. What is the key detail here? Even just a scenario from a cartoon, and then got to that. That would have made it a 4 across the board. Add that in. Okay. So I think this gives you a bit of a framework in terms of looking at what you're going to do in terms of when you're doing your lessons and designing pre-learning activities. As we've talked about in the past, the first 2 to 4 or 5 minutes of your lesson is really the key to your lesson, getting the students engaged, getting them involved in the lesson, building that background information, and setting up a criteria for success with that lesson. So that's something really to be looking at, and that's one of the factors in your rubric when we are looking to grade you in terms of your experience in the classroom. That's one of the areas that's in the rubric. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. What I'm going to try to do each week is cover something like this, and now I'm going to focus on a strategy, and then we're going to focus on dealing with some discipline type issues. So I'm going to go to a new share. I am going to show you one of the strong activities that would work very well in terms of designing your lessons, and it involves using the gradual release framework, is doing a read aloud and building a skill. I'm going to show you one from a prior teacher. And what goes along with this is I will show you one that involves using a graphic organizer. I'm going to also show you one that is for students who are younger, that you wouldn't be using a graphic organizer where the students are actually doing writing. This is from a past student teacher.
So we just finished discussing the term responsibility, and now we're going to see
Can everybody hear that? Okay.
it in action.
I can't really hear it.
I'm sorry?
It's not so clear to me. I don't know if everybody else could hear.
Okay, what I'll do is, you know, because this was an excellent student teacher, but her voice is very low. Let me see if I can channel this into the TV and turn the sound up nice and loud. So hang on a second. I'm going to need it for the next one anyway. Let's see if we can't get this nice and loud. All right.
My mother. So while we're reading the story, we're going to be completing this graphic organizer with these 3 columns. So in the first column, you're going to be talking about what happened in a particular section of the story. And then the second column, you're going to talk about what does this tell you, or what did you learn from what happened. And then in the last column, you're going to have to put your thinking caps on and think from the author's perspective. Why did the author include this in the story? Why did the author feel the need to put this?
And remember, she's going to do this using the gradual release framework.
This as part of the story. What is the purpose for it? So I'm going to model the first row, and then we're going to do the second row together as a class, and then the rest of the handout you'll complete on your own.
Now, the suggestion I did make to her after this, it would have been better than transferring the responsibility to them on their own, to maybe do a collaborative as the third activity, and then maybe if it was enough to do it on their own.
My mother works as a waitress in the Blue Tile Diner. After school sometimes I go to meet her there. Then her boss, Josephine, gives me a job too. I wash the salt and peppers and fill the ketchup. One time I peeled all the onions for the onion soup. When I finish, Josephine says, "Good work, honey," and pays me. And every time I put half of my money into the jar. Before I go into the graphic organizer, I just want to take a moment and look at this text. There's something I noticed very interesting about how the author wrote this page. And does anyone want to point that out? Yes, she wrote in a first person perspective. How do we know that? Because we see I go to meet her there. I wash the salt. I peel the all the onions. She's talking from the main character's point of view. Now, why might the author have done this? It might be a story from her own childhood, you know, and so she might be saying I because, you know, she herself, she might be referring to herself when she was a child and she used to go visit her mother. And so just want to keep that in the back of our minds as we read through the text. So let's go to our graphic organizer and let's think about what happened in this first page. Not a lot happened, but one thing that was very interesting was that
And one thing you do when you're using this type of thing, if the students are not capable of writing, you don't do this with them. But the students who can write, they complete this as you're writing it too. That makes them more involved in the lesson.
when she goes to visit her mother after school, she helps her boss, her mother's boss, by doing some jobs, small tasks in the diner. So she helps out in the diner when she visits her mom after school. And what does this tell you? What do we learn from this? Well, thinking back to our discussion earlier about what it means to be responsible, I think this kind of demonstrates that maybe this character is responsible because when she was given the task of cleaning all the plates and cleaning all the tables, she did so. And she didn't complain about it. She didn't, you know, say, no, I don't want to do it. She was willing to help out. So we can write that over here in the second column. And now let's put ourselves in the author's perspective. Why do you think she started the story off this way? Well, when we think about how stories start, they usually start by describing the setting. And this way, she took an interesting perspective in that she wanted to describe the character. She wants us to understand who this main character is as a person. So we'll write that over here.
Then she would read the next page and elicit from the students the same factors and filling out the graphic organizer while they do it together. But you could see that her modeling is quite good because, as Doug Fisher talked about at length, you want to talk about your thinking, share your thinking, so the students have a framework for how they're going about doing this. Very effective lesson, something that you guys may want to use in your classroom. It would work very well for an EdTPA lesson as part of your framework and what you're doing. Let me show you one that's shot for a younger age.
Girls, so for today's lesson, we're going to talk about the civil rights movement in the Jim Crow era. For the past 2 days, we've been discussing how the Jim Crow era and its effect on African Americans in this country. The book I'm going to read to you guys is called Freedom Summer, which occurred as the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 1960s. And as you might remember, the Jim Crow era basically lasted since the end of the Civil War, which was in the 1860s, up until the Civil Rights period began.
Actually, this is not the one I wanted, so hang on a second, guys. That's a good model. Yeah, that was a little fuzzy. That wasn't the one I wanted, so give me a second. Let me find the one I wanted. Like I say, my computer decided to reboot on me, and I had to open everything up again. Okay, hang on a second, let me find it. I wanted to show you one for a younger age. That's not the one I wanted, sorry. Give me one more second. This might be it. Okay, hang on. This is it. Let me start from the beginning.
Today we are going to be talking about 5 senses. And after you know, nope, listening here. Nope, leave it after now, okay? We're going to be talking about the 5 senses. And I know earlier this year when we talked about apples, we talked a little bit about the 5 senses. This is our circle map. What is something that you know already about the 5 senses? What sometimes something you have about the 5
First thing you notice is she's already focusing on connecting to prior knowledge.
All right, what should I write on our circle map about the 5 senses? Alexis, what should I write? You can write about taste. That's right, taste.
I'm going to skip ahead a little.
Talking about 5 senses. No. What word? That's the one. Marissa? Ooh. To our circle map later on after we read our story today. But before we read our story, I want everyone to stand up. We're going to get our bodies moving. You know the song. Head, shoulders, let's hear it.
do with that body part?
Again, this is all connecting before she reads the story. She's doing an excellent job of connecting to prior knowledge. Very interactive. Students are highly engaged because they're moving. So this is a good example of that as well.
That's right. And what are we doing now, Sophia? Oh, sure. What did Tom help us do? They help us watch that fight. I was doing there something this week.
Hang on, let me just see what the chat is, guys. Yeah, that's as clear as I can get it, guys.
You are feeling, you feel something that goes around your toes. What's going around your toes? And the illustrator artist saying, and Sebastian, will you come up and point to the author and illustrator for all of us to see? You see where that is? Very good. It says by Alici. Also, where the pictures, because these photographs, no, they're drawing. I think this is a fiction, fake story, or non-fiction, real story. Kind of think a little bit of goal. Is this book going to teach us about something? Yeah. Usually if a book teaches you about something, it's going to be non-fiction. So this story is a non-fiction story, and it's going to teach us about the 5 senses.
Doing a great job of connecting to a lot of prior knowledge, not only about the 5 senses, but fiction, nonfiction.
What pictures do you see? What do you see on the cover picture that will help us know what the grade is about? What do you see? Very good. You see them, you too. Nick, what do you see? I'd like for you to see right where you're at. Flowers or a rose. Excellent. I like that.
Hey, let me go back. I went ahead a little too much.
Very good. I can smell. I smell with my nose. What is he smelling? Flowers or a rose. Excellent. I can taste. I taste with my tongue. What did you see? What body part is he using to taste? Can you show me? Show me yours. Show me your body part. What body part is he using? Are you picking up your gum? Good job. Nice. And with the tongue? Yeah. I can touch.
Okay, that's a great example of a read aloud for a kindergarten or younger. I wanted to show you that. One thing that would really be super, especially if you're dealing with this as a kindergarten, you do want to try and tie in developing the students' reading skills if you can. So I'll show you an example of what you could do. So hang on a second. You can design your own little reading chant to go along with something like this. So let me make it nice and big.
Do you mind posting the link to that read aloud lesson? Because I couldn't really hear it. I couldn't really understand it.
Right. Okay. Who was that who was asking?
Nechama Siderson.
Yeah, I will be glad to.
Thank you.
But you can design your own little chant, and if you're dealing with kindergarten students, then you really want to keep it very limited in terms of the number of words. But if you can incorporate some reading, even if it's only just a few words, that'll be very effective. So if you had, okay, the senses, And what you do with something like this is you read it and you read it with them, and then you get them to practice it a few times. So, I can smell. I can smell. I can smell with my nose. I can hear. I can hear. I can hear with my ears. Very simple, a lot of language repetition. Again, you may want to read this to them a few times and then have them oral read it with you. It would be very, very effective working with the students, and you're building sight word vocabulary for them tied into what you're doing. Just giving you ideas of things you can use that would be very, very effective and would work quite well for your lessons. Administrators love to see stuff like this, and it would work very well for your Ed TPA. Okay, and I will share that link. Okay, well, last thing I want to do with you folks. Okay.
Sorry, I must have missed something. That whole time that you were reading about the I can hear, I can smell. What were you? The visual was this pre-learning activity rubric. What was that connected to? I missed it.
Let me bring it up. I thought it changed when I did that. I'm glad you did that. So it would look just like that. And you could put pictures in too, so you give them picture clues. So you could put a picture in of a nose, a picture of ears, and stuff like that. But again, look at the very few words. So you're building their sight word vocabulary, and you're going to do a lot of repetitive reading. If you guys are familiar with the work I've done and the work of Tim Rosinski, this is how you build sight vocabulary, fluency, and you tie this into your reading.
So this was a poem that you would write with them?
I would write this prior. It's like a chant almost.
Oh, okay.
And again, because it's kindergarten, how many words are there in there really? Not that many. It's repeat, I can, with my, I've only changed a few words.
Oh, so you're saying to create some sort of chant like this to do with the kids before you do the reading?
After you do the reading.
After reading. Okay.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now the last thing I want to show you, now we'll focus on something to do with classroom scenarios in terms of how you would deal with these situations. Okay. Okay, let's look at the first one. Okay, and I shot these now for younger students. We'll cover different ages. Can you see this one, guys?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, two boys want the same toy. I know we have a lot of students in kindergarten, working with kindergarten and preschool. And this is the result. Okay, what does this tell you? What can we do? What are you thinking about? What
I'm sorry, I don't
how do you handle the situation, and what might you do in the future based on what happened here?
I don't think I see the screen.
Okay.
I just see the classroom scenarios.
Make sure this is showing. See it now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, you seeing it now? Right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? And as you read through the Carrot's book in Restorative Justice, they'll be talking about a lot of this too. But I always like to share some of this if possible. What do you think? Is it going to happen?
I think you talk it out.
Okay, the kids are real upset now. Okay, they're in each other's face.
I think the first thing is to help them calm down.
Yeah, you really want to diffuse the situation first. You've got to separate these kids. Talking it out at this point, you're not going to get very much done with these students, okay? Because they're very emotional right now. You've got to get them to cool down, okay? Now, what does this tell you about the future, what you might do based on what happened here?
Maybe you could implement some sort of a system for that particular toy if you see it's a popular toy in the class.
Yeah, one of the real keys to restorative justice is what's called preventative classroom management. So you really want to, not just this toy, but any toys in the classroom, you can act these things out. Model what happens. What do you want to do when two kids want the same thing? How do you handle the situation? Okay, you also should be looking to be very observant, because something like this, if you got to have eyes in the back of your head in the classroom. You got to keep your eyes on all the students as much as possible all the time. This just doesn't happen in 2 seconds. This builds. You want to catch this before this gets to turmoil. So you want to model how you handle situations like this, how to handle toys or sharing things. And you also want to be very observant so you catch this before it gets to this point. One of the real keys. I will talk about one strategy that's really, really excellent for modeling, especially with younger age students. What works really well is get yourself a classroom puppet that you only use. Kids are highly engaged by classroom puppets, and you can use that puppet to do the modeling and to discuss things with the puppet. Or you can even get 2 puppets to act it out. That will add to the engagement. Very effective strategy. Students love puppets. I used to always have in my classroom finger puppets that I would use for stuff like this. Doesn't have to be huge puppets. But if you have one classroom puppet that they really love and you give it a personality, kids will love that. Okay, second situation. Okay, can you see that one? Did it advance?
Yes.
Okay.
I just see words. I don't see pictures.
You see the words?
It's very zoomed in. I don't know if other people could see it though.
Okay.
I see it well.
Okay, just me.
It's just a picture of a girl having a temper tantrum. And this really happened. Okay, that's why I picked this. A girl has a temper tantrum, and the student teacher started yelling at the girl, "Just stop it." What do you think?
Well, it's hard to know what the right thing to do is in each situation, but yelling at them to just stop it is probably not one of the things to do.
I would definitely agree. One of the precepts working with situations like this is that you have to remain calm. If you get upset, you're going to only escalate the situation. Also, one of the things that really works really well with these type of situations is to validate how the student is feeling. Okay, you can look at the student and say, "Oh, Miriam, I can see you're very upset," and talk in a very calm voice. "I can see you're upset, okay? Let's just calm down for a minute and see what we can do about this. I can see you're very upset."
Have you read the book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen?
No, I haven't read that one.
So they have great advice on these kinds of things. And I mean, there's no one answer for any kid or for all kids, but they have a lot of techniques in there that have worked when I've been working with kids. It's fantastic.
Okay, give that name again, because we'll share it with everybody.
How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk.
Yeah. So I'll post that for everybody.
I think it's by Faber and Maslish. I can post it if you want.
Okay. That's really great. But one of the key things is diffusing the situation which is really, really key, and staying calm yourself. And it's not easy. Kids are going to push your buttons. And you're going to be doing 10 things, and then a kid has a fit, and you're the one who's got to remain calm. Not easy to do, guys. So, like I said, I just want to spend a few minutes each time. We'll deal with different classroom situations. We'll tie this into the restorative justice book, and so on and so on. Let me show you one last thing before we call it a night. Okay, hang on, I got to get a new share. Just so you know, going ahead to week 3, okay, you're going to focus on your pre-learning strategies. Okay, you've got your formative assessments. You want to design one for writing, reading, and math. And then you have the discussion on collaborative learning. And I'll show you again, go through the discussion board. I like to keep a little bit ahead so you know where you got to do. Okay, so you focus on how either you or your cooperative teacher uses collaborative learning based on the gradual release framework, and give evidence as to the strategies and evidence, give evidence of the strategies, the evidence you use, and you want to post to the other students. Okay, so that focuses on week 2 and week 3 and ties in all the stuff we've been doing. Anybody have any questions or comments they want to share?
Yeah, this discussion board that you just showed us, that's for this week or for next week?
That's for next week. The one for this week is
It's not a discussion board.
the one
Yeah,
for
can you just review what exactly we have to do this week?
okay, week 2, going to it. Okay, and again, this doesn't have to be completed right away. Hang on. Week 2, you start your task 1. You want to start your multiple intelligence survey and student interest survey. You want to analyze, you're going to type it right in here, your classroom routines and what your cooperating teacher uses and how you feel that fits in, whether you're going to use them or not. And then you have these are the 2 that have to be really completed, and behavioral strategies in the classroom. And that is a new discussion board.
So those are both analyses.
Yep. And this is, again, rating your cooperating teacher, again, and I believe it's chapter 2 in the Carrots book, but it's also available to you right in week 2. In terms
Does it say where, like on week 2, does it say that that's a discussion board? How do we know where we're supposed to post as a discussion board?
Okay, that's why I'm telling you now. Okay, hang on. Okay, behavioral strategies in the classroom. I'm telling you now, that's a discussion board.
If we click on that, does it take us to the discussion board, or
You
it's
know
like
what? It doesn't effectively take you there. That's why I
Yeah.
say go through the discussion board.
It does though. No, I just clicked on it and it went to the forum.
Okay, great. Then just go that way. That's
Yeah,
great.
I think it does.
All right. I've had problems with that in the past. Any other questions, guys?
The analyzing classroom routines shows up as an assignment to turn in though.
Right.
Okay, so just follow that. Whatever it's wherever it takes you is what you should do.
Right, and the chart is in the chapter 2 of the Carrots book, which is also available to you right here. Restorative Justice Classrooms Rate the Teacher. The whole chapter's there.
Thank you.
Okay, and I will send the recording to everybody.
All right, thanks so much.
They're trying to cover all the different aspects that'll help you with your experience in the classroom, guys.
Thank you. It was really
Thanks
helpful.
for jumping in, guys.